Hey, it's Wes Spade with Role Playing Public Radio. This is a special Gencon 2024 video because this can't really be captured in solely audio format because, as I mentioned in our Gencon 2024 highlights, David, longtime cast member and good friend, has went on a scavenger hunt during Gen Con 2024. It was very fun. It's called Pin Bazaar. It was really a whole quest of trying to capture a very ultra rare pin. And I just wanted to sort of capture the story, kind of illustrate to what links you had to go to get this one pin. And I guess the first thing is, David, what was the pin in the ultra rare pin, and why do we care so much about it?
The ICC recarpeted relatively recently, within the past couple of years. And last year, there was a pin that was the pattern of the old carpet. And this year, the reward for doing all of the pin quest was that same carpet, but glittery. And so I wanted that glittery carpet pin, especially for Ross, because Ross has a piece of the original ICC carpet in his house right now.
Mm-hmm. I do.
And
Yeah.
and I wanted to find out so bad how close to the original piece of carpet is this swatch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the original carpet. Gen Con's been around a long time, but I started going in 2007. That was the pattern they had, and they only replaced it last year. And there's a Facebook group called Fans of Gen Con where someone was like, "Oh, they're tearing up the carpet, but I got a bunch of squares. Anybody want one?" And they were going for like $60. So I PayPal'd a random person $60, and I got a Gen Con carpet square that is now a just it's in our living room. It's our little Gen Con carpet square. So this is part of Pin Bazaar, which is Gen Con has this whole subculture of enamel pin collecting. Have you used this very much, or have you done this before? Is this your first year try this out?
So surprisingly, I've dabbled a little bit in previous years without realizing that I was dabbling. So we've got Pin Bazaar, which makes a very specific, unique set of pins. Not every pin on this bag is a Pin Bazaar pin. But on the other hand, some of the pins that we've got are definitely Pin Bazaar. This one is a Pin Bazaar from a couple of years ago that I managed to trade for this year. But I've got 3 of them in my possession from years past, and I didn't realize how special they were until I found out.
Okay.
One of which, in particular, my Lorcana Year 1 pin, is one that people are willing to pay their. Basically, people are willing to give their eye teeth for it. And Ross, when I tell you how much this carpet pin is going for on eBay, it is going to blow your socks right off. But we're going to save that reveal for later.
Okay, yeah. We're at Gen Con 2024. We when did we find out about that? I don't even remember exactly when we found out that was the carpet, or that was the ultra rare.
So, got to wind back the clock just a little bit.
Okay.
So on the way up to Gen Con, you tasked those of us that were going with be on the lookout for any random encounters so that we can talk about them in the live event.
Mm-hmm.
Look for any kind of side quest. And I remember that you said if you can stumble across a side quest, that would be fun. I'm like, all right, so I'll keep my eyes peeled. And through a non-related thing that I do every year, I completely stumbled into this. So every year I go to the tabletopgamers.org, and that's GAYMERS. They provide safe spaces for LGBTQIA teens, and they just basically make a spot where, all of the gay bees and the LGBT teens can play games and belong. And it's a charity that I support as much as I possibly can every year. And I don't get to support them as much.
Mm-hmm.
But this little guy right here, this Red Panda Paladin, was their Pin Bazaar pin for the year. And I saw him, and I wanted him specifically because one of my very dear friends came out as non-binary this year, and we refer to them as our party paladin because we've joked that if they were ever to commit a crime and were sentenced to 150 hours of community service without changing their routine, they would be done in 2 months. Greg does so much volunteering. There's a reason why we call Greg our paladin, and Greg is very near and dear to my heart. And so I saw this little red panda paladin, and I picked up 2 of them, one for Greg and one for me. And upon picking up the paladin, they said, all right, here are your pins, and here are your coupons. I went, what are these coupons for? And so upon reading them, it says if you go to this one specific booth, you can redeem 7 of these coupons to get a rare pin. Well, as you can tell by the little magic pin down here, I am a collector. And when you say rare, the little bitty part of my brain that collects things just kind of goes, side quest.
Mm-hmm.
And so I need to find out what these rare pins entail so that I can find out just what exactly is this quest. Is it worth my time? And am I going to be devoting the energy to it? And let's be fair, I don't have the stamina that I used to. I don't have the strength to stand many days. And so I found myself in a mobility scooter for the entirety of Gencon. And so just to set the stage, I am whizzing around the dealer hall on this tiny mobility scooter. I am hell on wheels, let's be fair. And I've got a crowd of people with me because my constitution stat may be shit, but my charisma, oh, I got bags of it. And so I attracted a fellowship of the pin. And this turned into a Lord of the Rings-esque quest to find the carpet. Because that next morning, I went to that booth and I found out just what exactly it entailed. Not every pin that you can get at Gen Con is a Pin Bazaar pin. And there's many of them on this bag that I picked up at the con this year that don't count because they don't give you coupons. Once I found out that there was going to be carpet involved, and since it was the carpet pin, I ended up tagging a couple of friends and saying, okay, guys, I've got our side quest. And so it began. I had a brand new to Gen Con participant. So Jeremy Fish has been going to Gen Con pretty much every year because he lives right there by Indy.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought his kiddo for the first time ever. And Darcy became my plucky young sidekick in my pin quest. And they were absolutely amazing. For the bugbear here, we ended up having to basically go to 10 different booths that were all LGBT friendly, hearing little pitches about the different products that they were doing, and collecting stamps. And then upon getting all of the stamps, we could get the bugbear. So that was a pin sub-quest in addition to the pin quest. But Darcy was with me all along. And so as I'm going through, I've found out that there are a couple of pins that if you get multiple copies of them, they will give you multiple coupons. And so since I'm on the quest with Adam Thornsberg, he's currently got the matching Viking ship.
Oh.
Chris Cirillo also has the Evil Book of Evil right here. Darcy ended up getting one of my other flaming books. And the reason why is because of this pin up here on the top. So basically to get the carpet pin, what we had to do is we had to collect all 4 of the rare pins. And to get the 4 rare pins, you have to turn in, for 3 of them, 7 coupons apiece. And so the rare pins are Genevieve, the Gen Con mascot, sitting behind her DM screen right here. And 2 of these were starter pins. So we've got 4 different dragons, all encircling the carpet. We've got Let's Shop, Let's Dance, and those are the 2 rares. But if you got the starters that got you going on the quest to begin with, that was Let's Play and Let's Eat. So you got to start by seeing that there was going to be something squared off in the middle of the 4 of them. And getting the 2 that start the thing just basically makes you want to get the whole set. They know exactly what they're doing. And because my health has been the way that it is, the very first pin that I got that went onto my bag that I said, this is going to be the one pin that I keep, is actually one of the pins that I gave away. I got one that said, Narrowly Avoided Death Award. And it was in the shape of a blue ribbon. And it sat right here underneath where my Roll with Pride pin is right now.
Mm.
And I found somebody who deserved that one more. And so that was the big issue that I ran into with it, is that I kept running into pins that made me think of other people. And like, I got one for a game called Psycho Killer that looks like a VHS tape with a knife on it. And I went, that is Ross energy right there. That one screams Ross Payton.
I don't know why you would think that. It's very I'm flattered though.
I found 2 different raccoon pins. There's this one, which goes with the whole gamer set.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Ranger Raccoon, that's Maddie.
Yeah.
There's another raccoon with Maddie's name on it. And as soon as I get to see them, they are going to squeal loud enough that you can hear it wherever you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that it's coming. As I mentioned, some of these pins, like Dan brought me out of a horrible funk years ago through a Magic the Gathering deck called Screaming Monkey Love. And because of that, I have the Magic the Gathering pin right here. I don't play as much as I used to, but I play enough. And every time I see this, I think of Dan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing about all of these pins. I kept running into, like, Brownie Davis was with me for a lot of the pin quest, and every time that I found a really awesome cat pin, because Brownie is a cat dad, I'm like, would you like this cat pin?
Aww.
And then every time that I found a pin that would remind me of somebody else, I would just keep passing these pins off. And some of them were just one-offs, because like there was only one submarine pin, and that went to Joe Della Pena.
Mm-hmm.
But to get this pin here, this was rare number 4. The only way that we could get this specific pin was to find a member of Gencon staff who had not traded pins, and to trade them a pin for that one that they did not have on their vest. And every member of staff got to start with 5 of those D10 pins. So finding a member of Gencon staff who hadn't pin traded to get that particular pin was difficult. And so we found the one area where the pin culture and other Gen Con culture did not quite cross over into the Venn diagram, and that was cosplay. So we went to the cosplay ballroom where there were 3 different staff members wrangling the cosplay contests. And we were able to trade with 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how we managed to get our hands on 2 of these. We actually ended up with 3, but one of them got traded for the dragon over here. Darcy got the other one. And it's important to note because, remember, we needed 4 rares, which are these 2, the D10, and then Genevieve.
Mm-hmm.
These 3 were easy to get. That one was nigh impossible.
Yeah, finding a staff member when they only get 5 each, that sounds like a tall order. Was that something you had to share, get the entire fellowship to help out with?
Oh, yes. Not only did we have to track down where we were going to find a staff member to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
but we also had to find a staff member that still had their D10 displayed. And to be fair, quite a few of them didn't have it displayed. They had them in an inner pocket. And so we had to just kind of go, are you pin trading? Do you still have D10s?
Ah, okay.
And so there was a bit of an inquest within the pin quest. And what turned into a glorious thing about it was finding out what the flavors of pins for the different people were.
Mm.
So I found a staffer named Amanda who has an 8-year-old daughter who raids mommy's vest at the end of every convention. So I had to find the cutest possible pin
Mm.
to trade to Miss Amanda because she knew that her daughter was going to snag it. But on the other hand, Darcy ended up trading with this gentleman who was looking for the most badass pin that he could find. And so she ended up giving him her flaming book so that she could get that same pin. And that's the real trick, is not only did you have to find a staffer, but you had to find a staffer and trade them a really awesome pin, because otherwise you weren't going to get it. And so at the end of the day, out of all of the pins that I've got on here, 7 of them are pins from PinQuest, and then the rest, they're just scattered to so many people
Aw.
who were part of the PinQuest, or in a couple of cases weren't able to make it to Gencon.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a praised cat for Chris. I've got a lizard man for Tom,
Yeah.
and then I've got my gay trio right here from the gamers,
Yeah.
and those are mine. But to be fair, Jeremy and Darcy have their copy of the Bugbear.
Mm-hmm.
Greg has this one, and then Maddie is going to be getting that one.
So, once you got the 4 rares, you were eligible to get the ultra rare.
Yes, basically to
Yeah.
get the ultra rare, what you had to do was you had to go to Foam Brain Games,
Mm-hmm.
who were the sponsors of this whole shenanigans, and you had to show them all 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then upon showing them the 4 pins, you got that super rare carpet. And what we decided to do on Sunday was we got together every member of our group that had gone on the pin quest that didn't quite have the carpet. And we just pooled our rares so that we ended up with extra sets of rares. And we sent people into the booth with those sets of rares so that we could basically maximize the gain and get as many carpets as we could. And we ended up with extra carpet. Specifically, we ended up with 5 carpet pins total.
Dang.
So I've got one
Mm-hmm.
that I earned the hard way. Darcy has one. Darcy was not there for the last day, but Jeremy Fish bravely braved the hordes to get it for her. Greg has one of the carpets, and then the last 2 bear mention because I've got one that is still in package, and then the last one that we got was after they had run completely out of carpet, and they had no more pins in package to give out. So we have the display.
Ooh.
The final carpet pin. And that one is the one that is going to Ross Payton.
Yeah. Aw. Well, thank you.
So on the second day of all of this,
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember what you said to me when I told you about the Pin Quest and just going after all of it. I was like, I'm not sure if I want to do this or not. But I showed you the paper that had all of the pins on it. And when you saw the carpet pin, you said, and I am quoting, I have never wanted something so immediately and so completely as that. And when you said, so how do you get that? And I said, it's a process. And I got about that far, and I saw the hope just drain completely out of your face. You went from, I want it, to, I absolutely cannot have it.
Yeah.
It was just that, oh. I went, you know what? I have to do this.
Aw.
Even if I only get one, I'm going to do this, and Ross is going to get the carpet one way or another.
Oh, oh, that's. I mean, it's incredibly touching. Yeah, I was so busy with events and recording video and photos of Gen Con for the podcast that I was like, like, how long did it take you to do this?
An entire day of effort.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, I did have a head start on that first part of it because I'm crippled. And one thing that I have to give Gen Con a lot of credit for is that they are very, very disability friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got this little bitty patch onto my name badge that identified that I was a person with disabilities, as if the scooter wasn't a big enough thing.
Right.
But that gave me access to the dealer room 5 minutes early.
I mean, avoid that rush. It is. Oof.
Well, even setting the speeder to maximum, I barely made it to that one booth before
yeah.
the running of the
hordes.
nerds just came running through.
Not for the claustrophobic.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And if you think it is bad to be standing in the middle of it, when you are seated, even though I was on a scooter, I could not see over any of the crowd, and it's a little bit terrifying. There was a reason why I had people around me the entire time, and you would be shocked at the sheer number of rude people that will say horrible things to you because you are on a mobility scooter. And I definitely got to see a little bit of that. I got to see the worst side of people. But once I had friends around me, that disappeared rather quickly. To be fair, this was worth all of the effort because, I mean, look at the prize. The prize was worth the fight.
Well, and it was fun too, right? To do it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I joke that the treasures that I picked up along the way were more the memories and more the fun that I had questing for pins with all of the people that I love.
Yeah.
The pins are nice, but it was the people that made it worthwhile. And you would not believe how much joy you can get out of saying to a person that you have known for years, I found this pin at Gen Con and it immediately made me think of you.
Aww.
Here, take this videotape with a knife through it. And I ran into old friends. I ran into Andy at FASA, and I managed to get a FASA pin to add to my bag.
Aww.
Doesn't count for anything, but once she heard about the quest, she demanded updates.
That's amazing.
And so throughout the whole thing, I had to swing by the FASA booth and go, I'm getting closer. And at the end of the day, just finding the pins. Like, I grabbed a space whale for Caleb. And when I said, this is going to Caleb Stokes, I thought that the gents who were at the transhuman booth were going to absolutely lose their minds.
Yeah. Oh,
the people who have the reputations and finding out that there's pins that are going to specific people just made it all worthwhile.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the real value of a convention like Gen Con is you get to meet and get together with a lot of people who, you know, old friends and new, and you get to do things that you can't do normally, like games that require too many people or space, and like these unique experiences. That's the real value. Yeah. And I think a scavenger hunt that goes across the entire con is amazing. So yeah,
not just the entire dealer room of the convention. Like this pin, I had to go all the way to the Hyatt because that's where Magpie Games was. To get Appa, you had to go to the 3rd floor of the Hyatt. And I would like to mention that one pin that I wanted to keep for myself because, as you said, there's memories about the con. We met a fan for the first time who had come to the convention, and this was the first year that she was able to come to Gen Con. Her name is Lindsay. She's got purple hair. And she said I was her favorite.
Oh, well, of course, purple David, yeah, purple
Hmm.
Lindsay.
And upon hearing her story and hearing that she is a cancer survivor.
Hmm.
Now remember, um, my dad died from cancer. My brother very nearly died from cancer. There is one night of the year that I am not allowed to wear purple, and that is at the Relay for Life because the survivor shirt is purple. So my narrowly avoided death ribbon went to Lindsay because she deserves it more than I do. And it may seem like just a tiny little pin, but every pin on here has a story. And even the pins that aren't on here have little stories attached to them. I started this whole thing with 4 pins on this bag. And the one that I nearly traded away on the first day almost got the D10 without realizing what it was my RPPR pin. And now that we have done PinQuest this year, I've already heard a bunch of people talking about how now RPPR is going to have to get involved at some point. We're going to have to design an RPPR pin.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at least next year I need to give you some extra RPPR pins for trading. So
Well, if
yeah,
nothing else, that way I can just kind of go, hey,
yeah,
would you like this really awesome pin? I don't know what next year's PinQuest is going to be,
yeah.
but we're going to have to throw down. We're going to have to up our game and drag people in.
Oh yeah.
Now, the pin that carpet number 2,
Mhm,
the one that is still in package, just because I have collected Gencon collectibles in years before.
mhm,
There was the year that D&D 4th Ed had come out,
mm.
and they had a set of dice. To get all of the dice, you had to go to all of the different TSR events, and I managed to collect almost every die except for the D20. And I had to eBay that shit
Mm.
and pay $25 for the last one so that I could have a complete set. Ross, would you like to venture a guess as to what this was trending of as of this morning?
Well, guessing inflation, I'm gonna guess 250.
Well, you're about halfway there.
500?
That that was spiking at $500,
Oh my god.
new in package.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to trade it
Yeah, neither am I.
because let's be honest, um, the memories are too good. And to be fair, if we do hit a point where the Gen Con carpet pin needs to be sold to fund someone's Gen Con, that's going to be one of those things that we do as an entire podcast.
Oh,
Like
sure.
that one is going to get enshrined somewhere.
Yeah, yeah,
It's going to
yeah.
go into a box where there's going to need to be 2 keys. They're going to have to be turned at precisely the right
Oh, yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. Swiss Army safe deposit, yeah. Or Swiss bank deposit box, yeah.
Just because, like, the sheer amount of effort that we had to put into that, and I know, effort.
Yep.
But, in the end of the day, the effort was worth it.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's about having an experience you can't have anywhere else, and like some people, play card games or tournaments or
Collect ribbons and
yeah,
buttons,
yeah.
and we can
Uh,
talk about ribbons and buttons at great length
that's a
because
whole
there's a
separate.
lot. Yeah, that's
Oh yeah,
a whole separate
yeah.
set of collectomaniacs.
Um,
But
but
one thing that I do want to point out, though, is that if you look at the back, it looks like the starriest night.
aw,
But I've got a couple of metal ones here because I had a couple of these pins that started to lose their backs because they were all just hanging on the bag.
Yeah.
And so I found out that you can get really, really good pin backs for cheap if you know the right craft store to go to. So anybody who wants to create their own pin canvas, hit me up. I can tell you where to go.
Yeah. But yeah, this is just another fascinating and amazing facet of Gen Con that like a lot of people don't know about. But I thank you so much, David, for going on that quest and succeeding. And I mean, just the journey is the reward in a lot of ways. And,
it really is. And if we were to track the dealer room Indiana Jones style with the line,
oh yeah,
let me tell you, I must have circled that dealer room 15 times trying to get to specific booths.
Yeah.
Because of the crowds, because of trying to find my way just through the crowds, because when you're trying to find booth 2308,
oh yeah,
and you're looking like, well, the 2300 banner says that we should be right around it. This year they did something helpful. They actually put the booth numbers on the floors.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
And it's extremely useful for those of us that are set a little bit lower than everybody else on the little scooters, just trying to figure out, okay, where am I? You can always look down and you can see the booth numbers. But there is a slight problem with that when there are people standing on the numbers. And it's a little bit hard to say to a random person, excuse me, can you take exactly 3 steps to your left, please? You're standing on the number. I would like to know where we are.
Yeah. No, I was trying to find a specific booth too, and it took me a while to find it. Actually, another pin booth, the Ukiyo-e heroes, the ones with the octopus samurai. And yeah.
You mean this octopus samurai?
I saw him earlier, yeah. Your camera's not showing it right now, but yeah. Yeah, I got the same guy.
You mean this octopus samurai?
Yeah, I got.
Eat your heart out, Tom Church?
Yeah. Because they also have the I saw that in the program. I was like, I have to have that, and I found it took me a while to find.
To be fair, I do want to share the easiest pins to get and the hardest pins to get.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because out of all of these, this one was difficult to quest for because you had to get all of the rares. And getting that one rare, that was tricky. But out of all of the rest of them, to get Appa, we just had to go to the Hyatt and just literally make a lap around the floor. And we got this silver dollar with Appa from Avatar The Last Airbender. This is a chonky pin. And it was 4 little stops, and then we were good. The hardest one to find was this Plague Doctor here, because to get to this specific one, you had to go to a specific booth in Artist Alley. And Artist Alley is not as marked as clearly as the rest of Gen Con. And so for that one, I had to loop around a lot. This one, and this.
Or can you move your bag a little closer towards you? That's a little out of frame.
Let's see.
Closer to you. Yeah.
Oh, to me.
Yeah. There you go. Perfect.
Okay. Flip. So this one is one that we could just purchase at the Gen Con store. Same thing with this one.
The Roll Pride.
The Roll with Pride, yes.
Roll with Pride, okay.
Yeah. Now this one is the Roll-A-Crit Tote Bag of Holding. The way that you got this one was if you spent X amount at the merch store, you could actually get this one. And I like it because it's got the little dangle price tag that says Gen Con on it.
Oh.
And you couldn't buy that one. You just had to buy enough other things to account for it. And I'll admit, creative use of game mechanics is how I got that one, because I didn't have to wait in that line. I got to wait in the ADA line instead, which was one person.
Nice.
And what I did was I asked everybody that I was sharing a room with, who wants stuff from the merch booth? And so I made sure that I had enough merch to hit all of the thresholds. And so that pin I got by just basically pooling everybody's money. And so I also got the commemorative Gen Con D20. I got the actual tote bag of holding, which is a really nice canvas tote.
Mm-hmm.
And I also got a specific lanyard. And because Rollicrit was the sponsor of the convention this year, I also have a super special Rollicrit strap that has merit badges on it. And because I spent the right amount of money, I also got the Rollicrit "You spent too much money at Gen Con" merit badge.
Nice. Okay.
So
Yeah.
some of these were just a case of, what was your superpower for this? I had an inordinate amount of money. But it was just basically doing everybody shopping at once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's super clever to pool everyone's money. What are your favorite types of pins to find?
Oh, to be fair, I like shiny pins. I like action pins.
Hmm.
One of the pins that Brownie got, that actually his wife Lori now has, is a pin of a cat hanging upside down by its tail. And so the 2-pin anchors are in the tail, and then the body is just swinging. So the cat just swings from the tail, and I like that action. One of the pins that I got for Greg is ask me what kind of game I want to play, and it's got a little slider on it with all sorts of different game types to play.
Hmm.
And I like the actiony pins, but I also I'm a magpie. I tend to get attracted to the shiny ones, and the more purpley, the better.
Mm-hmm.
This dragon down here is the Onyx dragon from the same place that had the samurai octopus.
Oh, yeah.
It's shiny, it's purple, it's black, and it is gorgeous. And I got that one basically because it was pretty. It didn't net me any benefit. I just really wanted it because it hit that collector part of me of shiny, purple, awesome. But if there is a pin that reminds me of somebody, I want to grab it too. Like
Mm-hmm.
these 4 right here in this set are all pins that remind me of people that I've been gaming with for this entire year, and getting to hang with them at Gen Con and have a pin to remember not only them but the fun times. Just
Yeah.
it hits the other part of the brain. It hits the nostalgia piece.
Yeah. It does. So, how would you suggest someone start pin collecting if they're wanting to get into this?
Well, I would say find a thing that you love and find a pin that matches it. And then the next thing you know, the rest of them are just going to start falling into place.
Mm-hmm.
I started this out with a couple of pins from the game Unstable Unicorns. So that's where Stabby the Unicorn up here with the "I will cut you" comes from. It's a unicorn with a butcher knife duct taped to his horn, and he is right over the RPPR pin. The RPPR enamel was going to go onto the bag at some point. Every bag of holding I've ever had has had a FASA pin on it because FASA was one of the first companies that I played games for. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that they took their name from the Marx Brothers. And so I always have to have a FASA pin because classic comedy.
What do you do with your pins when they're not, on the road or at a convention? Do you leave them on the bag, or do you have a display board or something?
They mostly stay on the bag. I do have a pin box that I've got a couple of pins that are not currently on the bag in, and it's one that says "Evil Plans and Other Fun Stuff" on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just where I just put all of my extra pins. I've got a couple of Catan pins that are in there from last year, and 1 or 2 unicorns that haven't made it to the bag yet. But for the most part, I feel like I'm going to display all of the pins that I possibly can on the canvas because at
Mm-hmm.
this point, why would I not?
Yeah.
So there are pin trade meetups.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't realize that the Pin Mafia actually has pin trade meetups where you have to wait in the line, you have to be courteous, um, and the fact that they enforce those rules made me smile. Um, and the glorious thing about it is that the way that most of the meetups go is these are this year's pins. These are last year's pins. If you would like to trade for one of these year's pins, you trade a pin that we don't have on the board for another pin. And as long as they've got it in the trade section, they're willing to trade. So there's always a pin meister who is doing that part of the trade. But while you're waiting in line and while you're milling about with the other pin traders, you can, in fact, trade for pins. That's how I got this one. Basically, I traded my other VHS tape of Psycho Killer to get an extra D10 because the guy really wanted the D10 and I was right next to the staffer and I said, would you trade a Psycho Killer for it? And so I turned to this other guy and I said, I did not mean to snipe you. I just happened to be closer. So I'm going to hand you this pin and you're going to hand me another pin of your choice, whichever one you want to hand me.
Aw.
And I figured that way I could just keep the pin love going.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the glorious things about trading is that you can just, what you find that is a really cool pin, you're always going to find somebody else who wants it. And to be fair, that's how I got the first Plague Doctor that Ross now has, was by going to the pin trader. And this one I actually got by going to the booth.
Mm-hmm. How many pins do you think you own, about?
Well, at this point, I would say in the neighborhood of 60.
Okay.
And they're not all on the bag.
Yeah.
Like there's a bunch of them that are still in the Evil Plans box.
Right.
But 60 about. Not all of them are Pin Bazaar pins. Some of them are just really cool pins that I got from different places.
Do you what aside from the carpet square, what are your rarest pins?
This one was a rare from 2 years ago.
Oh.
To be fair, the RPPR pin, I don't know how many Ross actually had made that 1 year.
Not many. I still have a stack of them, so yeah, there's not many floating around. I think there's only maybe like 50 or 70 out in the wild. I'd have to.
And that technically makes it more rare than the carpet.
Oh yeah, technically, yeah.
This one over here was a Kickstarter exclusive.
Oh yeah.
So the only way that you could get this one was by backing the Control or Command and Chaos on the Kickstarter for Unstable Unicorns. Although I think you can technically find that one or a similar one in the Unstable store now.
Yeah. We already talked about selling them maybe as an emergency, but that would be, to help someone else get to Gen Con. But do you see any other circumstances in which you would sell your pins?
Honestly, I don't. At this point, the most expensive pin I paid for was like $20. And I don't see getting a massive return on investment for the $20 pin. The memories to me are going to be worth more than the $20. Now, if I were to turn around and find that somebody is willing to pay a king's ransom for a pin, it would have to be a worthy cause because I'm not greedy like that. Despite the fact that one of the pins I've talked about was literally a dragon hoarding golden dice, I'm not going to be a wealth hoarder in the terms of pins. Some of the pins that I mentioned that are rare pins that are worth something, like, for instance, that Lorcana Year 1 pin. What it means to me is worth more than the money.
Yeah.
And I would never give up the experience attached to it.
Exactly.
When I could just get cash.
Yeah.
Why would I want something? Why would I want to cheapen the experience by giving up the pin for cash? But if I ever find that somebody else needs the money badly enough for something really important, like they're not going to get to Gen Con unless we are to sell this pin, then maybe I'll sell it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, David. That it was a beautiful story. I loved it, and I think really Gen Con, yeah.
Gen Con.
Gen Con.